Hola a todos.
Hello and good afternoon. Good afternoon, one and all. Thanks for attending this session on smart buildings in Telefónica's MWC Agora. My name is Carlos Martínez and I'm Director for Solutions and Services in Telefónica Tech. I have the pleasure and the honor to share the podium with Mariano González, the Director of Real Estate Services of Iberebro Group. Hello, my name is Mariano González, and as Carlos already mentioned, I'm in charge of a family office real estate agency from Zaragoza. I hope this session is gonna be interesting for you, and we'll be thrilled to answer any question at the end of the session. Let's get started. What is a smart building? It's very important to be clear about the concept. A metaphor that I like using for a better understanding of the concept of smart buildings is comparing smart buildings with human beings, or living beings rather. Buildings are like living beings. They need to understand what's going on around them to learn and to give the appropriate answer to its users, its visitors, its inhabitants. In order to become living beings, of course, buildings need a brain, and brains need to capture information, and for that they need sensors. Through sensors, information is gathered, sent up to the brain, and send commands to sensors. That's what smart buildings do, centralizing information through the available means of data collection in order to control them remotely and take better decisions, and thus act on levers and key elements to reduce negative impacts on the environment and improve the quality of life of inhabitants. Why have not we had smart buildings up to date? Well, already in the 80s and 90s, there was already a debate about intelligent buildings, now called smart buildings. Today, they can be a reality because we can connect and sensorize the physical space and monitor information. Up to date, it wasn't so easy, but today with IoT, broadband, short latencies, and the capability of managing all this information thanks to cloud and big data in order to take better decisions, as well as algorithmics that artificial intelligence allows in order to predict what a smart buildings is today at our disposal. And it's not only at our disposal, but it's also an urgent endeavor if we want to comply with the 2030 UN SDGs. 36% of world consumption comes from buildings, so if we want to go towards an improvement of energy efficiency by 2030, as stated in the UN SDGs, we need to transform buildings. The same happens with green household gases. 35% of household gases come from buildings. We need to accelerate the use of renewable energies in buildings, and thus making them intelligent. Last but not least, we shall never forget that 89% of the time human beings live is spent inside buildings, at home, in the office, in commercial malls, in pavilions like this one. So it's critical that buildings are designed to improve our well-being, to improve our health, and have the best possible experience. And this is yet another critical component of smart buildings. The smart buildings are built upon 4 pillars. The first and most important one has to do with ensuring a healthy and safe environment for people, making sure that the environment is as safe as possible and as healthy as possible, and also understanding human needs to respond to them. In order to understand human needs, we need to get to know people, and for that we need data on them, their habits inside the building but also outside the building. Where do they come from? Where do they go? What are their tastes and preferences and needs at all times? This will allow us to offer a digital experience, a combination between the physical world and the digital world, because our physical life, our offline life, is more and more connected with our online life. So we want our experience to be continuous, don't we? And we want to improve also waiting times, avoid massifications, even more so in a COVID-19 pandemic. Another additional critical axis has to do with efficiency. Efficiency understood as the perfect adjustment between offer and demand, and ensuring that the building supplies the services required at a given moment. Each space shall be used for what it was conceived and in the best possible way, with no mismatch between both axes. We need to optimize the use of both areas, using information about why areas in a building need to be used for, and for that we need to use all the different variables that have an impact on users. Physical variables such as temperature, humidity rate, air quality, as well as more psychological or psychic elements that enhance our mental well-being. Then a third critical axis is sustainability. As I already said, buildings have a major impact, negative impact on the environment and on pollution. We need to minimize water consumption, gas consumption, energy consumption. We need to ensure we have energy efficiency mechanisms that understand why systems are being used and reduce its use to the minimum possible expression through a permanent monitoring system. We need to include renewable energies in buildings to feed buildings, also to recharge the buildings that move in and out the building. And this will allow us to contribute to the objective of zero net emissions by 2050, marked by the European Union. The fourth pillar for smart building transformation has to do with security, understood as human protection and asset protection, as well as building protection. Security needs to be less intrusive, more transparent for users, and it needs to be anticipatory, preventive. We need to be able to prevent what is going to happen or detect an incident as soon as possible and respond automatically through technologies like biometry. Revolutions that, united with sensors and other automatic sensors, will allow us to provide with a not invasive security environment. In Telefónica, we have come up with a holistic end-to-end proposal that includes the best technological capabilities with the specific solutions that are developed by our partners. The bottom layer has to do with the building's sensorization, the digitization of the physical world, in order to gather information about what's going on in the building, in terms of air quality, humidity, etc., as well as presence, forum, movement inside the building, etc., in order to take better decisions. This information has to be channeled through cable and wireless, 4G and 5G narrowband IoT networks in order to develop IoT. And all this information is processed by specialized systems, many of them run by our partners, such as the building management system, where we work hand in hand with Siemens, one of our main partners in these value propositions or vertically specific proposals in different areas, and of course all the security systems. Regarding these vertical systems, well, on top of these vertical systems, we have developed a horizontal platform, a data platform that integrates and gathers information coming from all the different systems, combines it, and allows to take decisions on the basis of all this information through a dashboard with an executive layer, so that the information gets to the C-level of companies and public administrations, and also thanks to the contribution of AI in order to develop specific use cases and being able to predict and recommend, and such recommendations shall also be automized, so that no human being needs to take a decision, such as in the area of predictive maintenance that allows us when something is going to fail and thus take decisions before that happens in order to avoid an activity disruption or to plan and prevent service demand in the building in order to adapt offer, combining this with what we call interior insights, that is understanding how users behave inside a specific building and what are their needs in order to adapt our response. It's very important also to detect anomalies based on, well, are defined benchmarking with the traditional use of a building, and last but not least, doing a benchmark regarding the performance of our building compared to our buildings, to other buildings. This applies to all sectors, and we're going to see how it works in the retail sector. What is it that they are interested on measuring in the retail segment? Of course, things differ whether we're speaking about a hospital or an office. Metrics allow us to adapt use cases to the different usages that the administration wants to measure. What's relevant also is that the platform incorporates a digital 3D twin with a BIM modeling platform developed with one of our partners so that the information can be visualized graphically but also georeferenced by buildings area so that we can navigate through the 3D plans of the building and understand what's going on in each area. While they launch a video on the platform's use, let me summarize what I've said until now. The most important thing is that this platform has a holistic perspective about systems that were split in silos up to date, and it also includes the systems already available in the building. It's not about changing everything in the building, because of course, in order to comply with the 2030 SDGs, it's not only about building new buildings, but rather updating the ones we have, transformed them into smart buildings. The platform can work with existing systems, integrating data and providing them with AI. I believe this is another disruptive element that needs to be taken into account. Here we have an executive scope of the main KPIs, both in the people axis, in the efficiency axis, in the sustainability and security pillars, in order to take decisions and being able to drill down into the detail, having access through the platform to each subsystem. Here in the video you have the 3D vision that I told you about before. Building managers prefer to navigate through the building virtually, through this building's metaverse, in order to understand where the problem is taking place and what answer needs to be given. And this is another differential component of the proposal we have developed. This is the end of my first presentation. I'm going to hand it over to Mariano so he can tell us more about how the concept is being used in the framework of a retail mall center. Mariano, the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Carlos. So we are Iberebro, and we have projected a commercial mall in Zaragoza. And it's not a traditional commercial mall, it includes an outlet. And as you will see, this has an impact on what we have been discussing regarding digitalization of buildings. When we launched the project for the first time, we realized, that was 5 or 6 years ago, we realized that we had many questions to answer, and the traditional information that we tend to obtain in a traditional building, we would not be capable of answering to all these questions. So we decided that we needed an additional layer of information overlapping the traditional layers based on experience and intuition. And for that, we are capturing, as Carlos said before, we are capturing through different sensors an incredible amount of information that then needs to be gathered and analyzed. Data is useless unless you translate it into useful information that allows you to take decisions. Because at the end of the day, our focus is to improve in the 3 main working lines that a commercial mall like ours gathers: operations, which stands for 80% of a commercial mall, marketing. Of course, we'll now discover how information is a lever to improve marketing, and of course, business. Because at the end of the day, all this needs to translate into a turnover improvement or a margin improvement for the company. The objective that we have set up, and the main objective on the table, is how, thanks to a sound knowledge of our visitors, of our customers, we will be capable to improve all the KPIs that improve customer experience, and optimize business. For the company, there is a very clear example, and I believe you can see it here. This is a rather trendy example, unfortunately. Forum control. We have been capable of understanding the occupation rate of a building in real time. It's also interesting to understand that this tool allows us to say, okay, what forum are we going to have in 30 minutes or in 60 minutes? This allows us to anticipate and thus being able to better work in our customer security so that they feel comfortable in the environment where we are. And the same applies with the parking. I imagine this is rather, this might sound banal, but the first experience any consumer have in a commercial mall is precisely parking. And if parking is a nightmare, the customer behavior is conditioned. So we need to control in real time our parking availability so we can ask someone to, well, we need to improve our customer experience. One of the main questions we wanted to answer is precisely how many people visit the commercial mall. But of course, there are many tools that will allow you to count the people visiting a commercial mall. What we wanted to understand is how many visitors we have in a commercial mall. In our commercial mall, we have 1,200 shop attendants, and they are not visitors, they are workers. And in some commercial malls, the footfall, the employees' footfall stands to 10%. So we need to we have information available about, well, this is disaggregated to any potential level. And of course, we have information about key elements such as how much the average visit time. Average visit time allows us to come up with key indicators, key performance indicators. There is another element which is quite interesting, which is the heat map. I am sure you've heard of commercial malls with cold areas, hot areas. All this is measured in a heat map. Here we have a traditional Thursday heat map, and of course it's very different from the Saturday's heat map. Customers' behavior on Saturdays focuses on the restoration area, etc., food and beverage. And here, well, we have information about the cold and hot areas in the commercial mall. But then there's another topic that is not widely discussed. Commercial malls have hot retailers and cold retailers. This is a difficult conversation to have with a retailer, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, retailers will say, I don't have enough visits. We need to be able to prove whether the position of the retail is in the hot or in the cold spots of the commercial mall. That's why we have business key performance indicators that provide us information about retailer by retailer sales per month. And these key KPIs provide us with two pieces of information which are key. The capture percentage, how many visitors is the retailer receiving, and the conversion rate, how many tickets are produced on the basis of the visits received. And this allows us to change the debate we have with retailers. If a retailer has a capturing problem, well, the problem might be related to an internal problem of theirs. Whereas if they have a conversion rate problem, the problem is happening inside the store, right? We all agree on that. For each retailer, we have a long list of indicators available. Here we have some visits, unique visits, conversion rates, etc. But what really matters here is that the tool provides us with this information in real time, and this helps us better manage our customers, retail stores. At the end of the day, it's all about understanding what metrics we are using that can be grouped the way we please, and understanding how they interact. Because oftentimes one of the problems we have is that metrics do not necessarily correlate. We know that the more visits, the more sales, the more conversion rate, more sales. But how do things interact one with another? What is the correlation? It's not a perfect correlation. And better understanding correlations will allow us to support customers be the best version of themselves. Why are we so interested in what's happening in a retail? Well, because we are in an outlet. And in an outlet, there's a concept called variable rental. That means that each customer pays a rental which corresponds to their turnover. And that's why it's very important for us to make sure that they get to the best possible turnover of theirs. We like using the marketing lever, and for that, we need to understand who is visiting us, who is the consumer visiting us. The system we have allows us to understand how many people are coming and who they are, whether they are women, men, millennials, boomers, their socioeconomic background. We're also interested in knowing what is it they do in the commercial mall, what is their commercial mission, how do they behave, how do they move around the commercial center. We are interested in knowing from which neighborhoods in the city they come, from which part of the world they come from, and we are also very much interested in understanding their digital profile. Here we have a few examples about what we know from our customers. We know that in a certain period of time, and I didn't share information from a long time. This is a real example in a period, in Zaragoza in a period. Well, 61% of our visitors came from Zaragoza. From other parts of the province, 16%, other parts of Spain, 17%, international visitors, 4.1%. We know this information in real time. We gather this information in real time thanks to the use of our tool. Similarly, we can have access to other interesting information. Where do customers come from, and how to work in a specific markets so that we can spot differences between customers. Here we have information about where customers come from in Spain. This is, of course, a key lever for our marketing tool. But bear in mind, here we have our heat map by district in Zaragoza and the penetration rate in each neighborhood, in each district. This tells us who is coming, who's not coming, and allows us to take decisions. Another interesting thing is to understand why customers visit us. The commercial mission is very different depending on whether we are on a Tuesday or on a Thursday. On Saturdays, home prevails, whereas on a Saturday, leisure, food and beverage prevail, and we know to what extent. And we know also how traffic flows between different areas, different groups of stores. At the end of the day, understanding how customers move within a commercial mall allow us to improve our performance, especially when it comes to operations. And it allows also to optimize 80% of our expenses, safety, cleaning, etc. But all this, at the end of the day, is the past. All this refers to the past. There's no doubt we have a very powerful tool to understand what's happened in the past. But the great potential of this tool is that the tool is meant to tell us what's going to happen in the future. Here is a projection, a hypothetical sales projection, and the tool needs to tell us how much a specific retailer is going to invoice next year. And this is extremely useful when it comes to negotiating the rental of a specific retail store. Because if you can tell a retailer how much they're going to sell the upcoming year, the negotiation is totally different. Today we have a projection. The projection includes a margin of error, both in terms of sales and in terms of visitors. You could tell me that a projection with a 10% margin of error can be, is worthless. But at the end of the day, our target is to narrow down the fluctuation and to ensure that the prediction we launch is correct. And if it's not the projection we target, we need to set up the necessary measures to correct the projection and bring it where we wish. Thank you very much. To be honest, this is an amazing example on how smart buildings are going to help us solve business challenges in retail and in other environments for the office segment, home segment, hospitals, public administrations. Each use requires of a specific information. The platform we have developed in Telefónica allows us to answer to these needs. The platform is based in a combination between IoT, real-life sensorization, IoT, artificial intelligence. The platform is built on 4 axes: improving customer experience, maximizing efficiency, increasing sustainability, and reaching 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which will not be achieved unless we ensure all buildings are smart. At the same time, we need to preserve human safety. First of all, or last but not least, I would like to share this quote from Jacques Nouvel, a very famous architect, who said, "Each new situation requires a new architecture." He was one of the first ones to bear in mind the environment in the Institute for the Arabic World in Paris. We believe that the new scenario is just new, and we need to adapt and adjust to make sure that our children and grandchildren can still live in this planet. We need to transform buildings into smart buildings, and we want to do it together with you. Thank you very much to all of you.
¿Preparamos? ¿No lanzaron tu vídeo?
¿Perdona?
¿Preguntas o no?
Questions. If you have any question, we'll be very happy to answer it. Otherwise, we'll broadcast a video that will help you understand what Mariano was referring to.
Desde Telefónica Tech buscamos la creación de entornos digital. Es la unión en un mismo dashboard, en un mismo cuadro de mando, toda la información que nos aporta el entorno online, el mundo online, con la información que recogemos de los dispositivos que montamos en el punto de venta.
Ser el centro comercial más digitalizado de España implica que disponemos de un gran volumen de datos. Son datos muy variados, de gran riqueza, que nos permiten saber qué está sucediendo en el centro comercial en tiempo real, también a nivel histórico, descriptivo, y por otro lado saber qué va a suceder en términos de afluencia, métricas de negocio, perfiles. Es decir, que podemos aplicar modelos predictivos de actividad y esto en definitiva nos da como resultado una solución, un sistema de aplicación avanzada para retail. Por otro lado, el conocimiento que tenemos de esos perfiles, su actividad, sus intereses, nos permiten diseñar y modular un conjunto de acciones de ámbito comercial, de marketing, para diseñarlas de forma individualizada y personalizada. Y así contribuimos a que su experiencia en el centro comercial sea más rica, más valiosa.
Las ventajas de una propuesta tecnológica única e integrada nos dan la posibilidad de ofrecer un proyecto de digitalización que aúne los intereses de negocio con la experiencia de usuario y la integración positiva de los elementos de digitalización dentro del espacio arquitectónico y del espacio comercial.
Los principales beneficios que obtenemos con esta herramienta es tener monitorizados permanentemente las principales variables de lo que está pasando en el centro comercial. Esto lo que nos permite es tener controlado toda la parte operativa, de gastos operativos, que al final son el 80% de gastos del centro, y por otro lado tener una serie de herramientas comerciales que nos permiten tanto negociar mejor con los retailers como ayudarles a ellos en mejorar sus cifras y su posicionamiento.
Gracias a la tecnología hemos visto que a partir de ahora podemos poner el foco en lo que es más importante y sabemos que es lo más importante gracias a los datos. Esto nos ha permitido generar un modelo de gestión nuevo, mucho más inteligente, mucho más dinámico, disponible siempre para la toma de decisiones en tiempo real, como fue por ejemplo el metaverso, un concepto que hoy está cogiendo una gran fuerza mediática, pero que ya hace más de un año implementamos en este outlet gracias a un gemelo digital.
Aún nos queda mucho camino por recorrer a nivel tecnológico, principalmente por la parte del machine learning, de conocer los modelos predictivos o analítica predictiva de los clientes o potenciales clientes. Y a nivel de espacios tenemos que seguir generando contenidos, experiencias para atraer a los clientes a los espacios físicos.
Al final esta personalización, en el cual el cliente puede ver cómo nos adaptamos a él, es lo que realmente gana.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias a todos. Gracias.